And we're on. Welcome, Scott Schwenk.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you live with me. It's a weird feeling at the same time because I've been following your teachings and your courses for like 2-3 years, maybe 4 years. And now I'm sitting here with you. And I'm just so grateful and thankful, and I feel a little bit nervous too, because
That's
you are
sweet.
kind of a cool teacher. You know, you're a leader who I look up to. So I'm gonna try to do my best. What is that?
It's already great. It's already great, and I really appreciate the sweetness and the sincerity in that, because it tells me how much you care, and not just about me, but about the work and about really what's possible for humanity.
Definitely. This podcast is about spreading the information about you to the ones who hasn't found you yet. I want them to get a glimpse of you in my podcast and maybe connect with you in some way and maybe start looking into your teaching. So that is it feels like that's my purpose with all my podcast sessions, to bring in these kind of new kind of leaders or teachers or whatever you want to call yourself or myself. I don't know, what do you call yourself?
That's a good question. My business card says Alchemist.
Wow. Okay.
That seemed to be however many years ago when somebody helped me make that card, the biggest kind of umbrella that includes everything that I do with people, with individuals, with groups, with the meditative type courses, with the work I do with businesses in their culture architecture, helping them to really bring more coherency and alignment and congruency to how they're showing up for themselves, for the team, and for the customers, internal and external customers. And is that actually aligned with why the business was created and what it's actually for? So alchemy, in my understanding of it, and I'm sure there's a lot about everything in the world that I don't fully understand and I get to discover, but my understanding of alchemy from different perspectives of practice, of deep practice on my own, is one that fire is always present, and in some form of internal or external fire is always present for alchemy. So that's interesting. And that alchemy is a transformation. It's not necessarily linear. So the transformation from coal to a diamond, I believe, could be considered a form of alchemy. To be taking a part of the body, noticing a part of the body that's got pain, and relating to it in a real way, rather than as pain, as fuel and bound energy that can be interacted with in such a way that that bound energy is released into creative life force that the whole organism can use. That's a form of alchemy. And then relationally, to be able to use our commitments, our interests in one another, as well as our friction points, consciously as an opportunity to keep stepping up and claiming more for ourselves in all of life.
Yes. It seems like you have these friction points or all these kind of subtle messages everywhere, if you want it, that you can alchemize. It's like we can have this talk, and at the same time I can alchemize what we're doing or what we're saying also, if you're conscious enough to pick stuff up.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? And what is my attentiveness at a basic level and consciousness or awareness of awareness on a macro level. We've got the microcosm, the mesocosm, and the macrocosm. At the macro, it's all one. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who've learned that as a slogan.
Yes.
But it's not actually impacting how they transform their behavior, their sense of self, or how they show up relationally with the earth, with other humans. So what is it to actually get raw and real about what am I actually aware of in this moment, and what tools am I going to leverage to expand, and not just for my own sake. I hit this like a hammer on the nail all the time. Like, it can't just be about the individual, because the individual is a fiction. So if it's only about the individual spiritual journey, then we're fucked, because you've got a bunch of narcissists running around, maybe not being rude to one another, but maybe going, well, I'm evolved. No, not in this moment. You're not, because you don't recognize that I'm also a finger on the same hand that you are.
Exactly. And is there a difference? There's never a difference between anyone. We're always on the same kind of a level. So as soon as I speak to someone who thinks he's more evolved, I'm like, maybe it's the opposite, because I can't see any difference in anyone. Like, we're everybody on the same level in some way.
Let me offer another perspective possibility on that one, because that's great, and that's my experience. Like, in a retreat, like a really powerful retreat where you have to deal with yourself. In the beginning of the retreat, especially if there's people we don't know, let's say we're participants, we're not even necessarily leading it. There's some friction. Like in the seminar that I was just participating at in Lake Como for 5 days, the majority of the people there were Russians who needed translation. And there were 9 or 11 of us that came from the United States, maybe a few more. There were only 12 men out of 70 people. So that's 2 different cultural fields, female and male. The Soviet, you really feel that Soviet energy, that pre-Soviet Union breakdown culture, and all that comes with that. And then these European cultures, and then the American culture. And there was like, yes, we're all one, but that wasn't yet the experience for us. So it took until like about day 3 to start, through being raw and real and really meeting with our own challenging energies, to soften open to the places that could feel our connection, not just think it.
Exactly. That's when it feels like you connect your heart together and you experience like some kind of a one heart. And that's when you're like connected, but you, at the same time, you're still you.
That's
like,
right.
You're still here, but you're experiencing everyone at the same time. It's
and
hard
this
to
is
put
multiple
words on it.
perspectives. Like, to be able to sense the unbroken unity of all of existence to any degree, not just as a thought, because a lot of us have had it as a concept before we started to actually experience it. And a concept that maybe gave us goosebumps, and but it still was a concept. So to have that, some access to that reality, like, oh, it is all one, without, as you said, which I think what you're pointing in is very important, I do have an individuality, but it's part of something bigger. And if I'm denying my individuality, I don't have boundaries, and that's not helpful in this world. Like, if I don't have boundaries, then a red light doesn't mean anything in the car. Or, going into a store, I don't pay for things because it's all mine.
Exactly. I am creating all this, so I don't need to do anything.
Yeah, you tell that to the woman whose kid was just shot in Gaza or in Ukraine. Oh, you create your own reality. It's like, no, we're not that powerful. We create our own experience of reality. But I don't think we're creating it all.
How would you explain creating your experience and creating your reality? How do you explain the difference?
Great.
Because I always say you create your reality, but by that I'm saying this is my reality and this is your reality, but we are still in the same reality at the same time, and then I'm like, and
Well,
I
which
can't
me?
explain
You
them.
say
And
my. You say my and me as you're asking the question. You say my. What is my reality as Tommy? Is there only one? Which me is speaking? The great Russian teacher Gurdjieff said there in every single person in any given moment, there's like a theater of different selves. You know,
yeah,
imagine every seat is a different kind of aspect of self, all pretending to be the one true I. So he
yeah,
said, verify the eyes. Which eye is speaking, and is that truly you? And how do you know?
exactly. How do you know? And yeah, and the mechanism, I can't explain that, because it's just some kind of acceptance in it. Like this, we are one in a way. By the way, talking about oneness, I had this like 2-3 years ago when I started to grasp the oneness thing. Like, oh my God, am I melting into oneness? I got like some kind of shock in my body. Like, am I disappearing from like myself, from the I, and becoming everything and everyone? Is this what it's all about? Am I gonna merge with everyone, like with the walls, with the other human beings, with the nature? And I actually had like this, I had like some panic moments, because it felt like I had to give up myself. But now I'm just like, I'm in that place when I'm experience the oneness, that I'm still here, that it's still what I call Tommy, the I, who I am here now. But I also see myself in every single person I meet, and I understand that I'm talking to myself in a way. So I better like be nice in a way and treat them good with respect, because it's me, and they're probably thinking the same about me, like they're
Maybe.
meeting themselves. I don't
Some
know.
people are just
This
so busy
sounds
thinking about themselves or worried about what you're thinking about them that they're not
yeah,
actually really
no,
having that experience.
and it's difficult for me to explain too. Like, it feels like I'm going mental here when I try to talk about the oneness, but it's actually pretty beautiful to see the oneness in everyone, but we're still playing individuals at the same time. It's so cool.
Yeah. And there's so much more to that. But like, you know, if it's somebody's not in the experience yet, it just starts to get really confusing
Mm,
to listen to. You know, what is,
mm,
you know, for example, like when you were talking just now about I had this experience of this
mm,
oneness and then I experienced
mm,
some panic,
mm,
were all the things you called I the
mm,
same thing? Probably
mm,
not. You know, in the language of internal family systems or parts work can
mm,
sometimes be helpful. Like, oh, I've got parts that are really available to some degree of recognition of the oneness of all of existence. And I've
mm.
got other parts that maybe are like hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, or
Yeah.
sad, or grieving. And
Mm,
like to be able to have a conscious awareness that they're all here,
mm,
they're all expressions of me. Some are more coherent than others. And then how am I going to proceed? Like, you know, you sit down to order dinner, you go,
mm.
okay, who's ordering the dinner? Like when maybe a frustrated little kid
Yeah.
or overstimulated little kid part was ordering the
Mm.
dinner, you're going to order dessert only for dinner, right? Or
Definitely.
like the super intense controlling protector part might make you
Mm.
only order a salad for dinner,
Yeah.
you know. And then another part that's just like avoiding feeling something is like, no, we're just going to have cocktails for dinner, lots of them. So who's ordering the dinner, or who's driving the car? You know, who's reacting to the other driver? Which parts are
Wow.
reacting?
That's really that's interesting. There's so many aspects
That's
of
right.
who's ordering the dinner. And
That's
then
right.
you have the one observing it too.
Yeah, and there's layers of the observer. There's not even just one observer. You know, the
No.
first observer that we touch, we can call the witness in meditation. When you start to
Yeah.
become aware, oh, I can observe my thoughts while they're
Mm.
happening without getting involved in them. Well, that
Mm.
may not be the big
No.
W witness yet, but
Mm.
it's a degree, it's a layer. So that, you know, I think part of what can mess us up sometimes when
Mm.
we're considering things that are multidimensional
Mm.
is our linear orientation, the way we were brought
Mm.
through school, that things are linear. This, sorry
Mm.
to get complicated for you if you're listening, the neo-Cartesian worldview. You know, like A happens, then B happens, then C
Mm.
happens. Well, what if A, B, and C are all simultaneously happening at the same time? It just looks like there's an order to them.
Exactly. And that is the same with, yeah, I can sometimes experience that too, that something that happened when I was 7, or a song I heard when I was 7, had an impact on me yesterday in the car, maybe even bigger impact. So that's when I can like tell, like the music that they dropped 1991 was meant for me now.
Yeah.
Well, that is a very simple way to put it. I'm trying to put words on all these things, but you're better with that.
Well, I have some practice. I don't know. I'm still learning too. So sometimes, you know, without meaning to, I believe I might overcomplicate things for a listener sometimes because I see so many perspectives and how they can interrelate. So
I don't think
sometimes
you
when it,
do.
yeah.
I think you actually do the opposite, because you use like common words. You explain in a good way, and then I'm trying to hook on to that, and then and we're lost. But when did you start your practices? Like, may
When
I
I was a
ask,
kid,
what did something like happen, or were you like just
oh yeah, lots
slowly
of things
flowing
happened.
into it?
Lots of things happened.
Tell me,
I was cracked open at an early age, more
how
than one
young?
time. Um, Here's an example. I don't think it was the earliest thing that happened, but when
Mm.
my mom says I was around 6.
Mm.
We were in a brand new house. My mom and dad, biological mom and dad, were still married to each other at that point.
Mm.
Brand new house. And my dad, without telling anybody, emptied the bank account and left.
Wow.
And he left and he had no intention of returning, but he did come back after 10 days. So I
Okay.
still have a very vivid memory of coming down the stairs one morning, and I believe it might have been the third morning, if what I
Mm.
remember from my mom is correct. She was sitting on the couch in the dark, crying her eyes out, and
Mm.
I'm 6 years old. And
Mm.
she had put together, after calling hospitals and his job, and nobody knew where he was, that
Mm.
he had left.
Okay.
And that was a major, 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 major happening moment in my life
And
because I had to comfort her. I had
yeah.
to become something other than a little kid who was getting up to go play.
Whoa.
And that
That's
was
so
not the first
profound.
time. That was one of many times.
Mm.
So let me just pause for a second and let this kind of come together. What wants to be said? Something wants to be shared. So while a lot of things happened that were a catalyst for me to ask big questions and to have to connect past humans directly into some degree of soul, or I don't know
Mm.
what we would call it. I don't really know. And
Mm.
I didn't know I was doing it at the time, but I had to connect into something stronger than the flimsiness of the people around me.
Yeah, like the everyday life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they clearly couldn't take care of themselves.
No.
And so where was I? What was safe? What was real? What
Mm.
mattered? And it's only in recent years where I've seen, and really actually just last week in Como, in the depths of this very powerful seminar, that while I know I'm living my dharma, I know I'm living my truth as a teacher, as a coach, as a facilitator, I also saw that I was getting, for example, intimacy. I have deep intimacy when I'm teaching, it's just it's so intimate, it's so raw, it's so real, whether it's online, whether I'm pre-recording. So it doesn't matter. When I'm in that mode, it's like profound intimacy for me that I feel predominantly in my heart, in the chest, but really all over, more than any other place in my life historically. And what I saw last week for myself was that there was a way in which I was avoiding intimacy with people in an ordinary sense, not consciously, but kind of almost hiding in the role of teacher and coach, because I was getting that connection there. And so I can't unsee this. Like, I've got to be ordinary. Not that I'm going to quit teaching at all, but like out in the world, like just be ordinary and be intimate appropriately.
Exactly.
Without using teacher to get
it's
there.
kind of a role. It's kind of a role that you need to drop.
Yes,
like it's not a
mask,
bad role,
like
but it's just a mask to get. I've just gone through the same thing. Wow. And it's been like, to connect with people, Tommy, you need to stop being like a teacher or a wise man. And that put me into another direction, like in all of this spiritual realm. I would call it human realm, but people tend to use the word spiritual because stuff is happening in the spiritual
I'm with
realm.
you, and I love that you notice that like either everything is spiritual or nothing is. But like, for example, I went to the Korean spa yesterday. I mentioned before we started that to you that my back has been really hurting. So I went to this one Korean spa with hot spring water in the pool and cold plunge, and I'm probably going to go again today and see if I can get the inflammation down. Right?
Yeah.
These two of the guys that were there, it was hardly anybody there. It was really nice and quiet. But these two sweet guys who were there together started talking to me as we were getting cleaned up. And they were like, do you teach meditation? Do you know about and like, even though I wasn't trying to do any of that, people still pick up on it and ask. So it's like, how will I engage? Will I pretend not to be? Or is there a way I can redirect and like be more raw, more real? Without being put into that role.
Wow. I'm exactly at the same spot. I'm like, what should I talk about? And then it automatically, like a magnet, goes into teachings and like life and shadow work. I'm like, I'm sitting in a sauna with you, dude. Like, how's the temperature? How's the temperature? That's like the last time I was in a sauna. I'm like,
yes.
And he was sitting next to me. It's like, it feels like you're sent for me. I don't know you, but it feels like you're sent for me. I'm like, dude, I probably am, but I'm trying to not to be always. Like, I can mirror you, but I just want a sauna, you know?
Yes.
So there's something with that. It's been such an effective way to get for me to have been felt loved and needed and have intimacy with people, to know things, to be able to be good at something. And I've been doing very good with this, but I've been feeling like, guys, I just want to play. Can we play? Just like try to play. Like, that's why I created this Dreamers Co-retreat. It's more like, let's drop the roles and just play and hang out, because I miss the part of just hanging out with people and not talking about evolving or mirroring or like some
But see,
kind
in
of
my
support.
case, like when I look at that one experience at 6 years old, I can see, if I look through the eyes of compassion, like I'm coaching somebody other than myself, I see, that behavior kept getting stimulated as a survival mechanism, right? Like it's literally a survival mechanism
Yes.
to
Oh my God.
see the wisdom.
I feel so much connection when you say this. It's like the heart is like vibrating. Wow. Yeah. It's the way we learn to be like connecting with people, I guess.
Surviving, literally surviving.
Yeah,
I don't know how
surviving.
much I felt connected. It was more like surviving,
Yeah.
just surviving, like getting through, like, and what once upon a time was adaptive, my mom's sitting in the dark on the couch and crying. Like I had to adapt to that.
Yeah.
So it was adaptive then, but it's maladaptive now.
Oh, wow. May I ask you something about men? Like,
Ask me anything you want.
thank you. Thank you. I love it. So, did you have any trust issues with men after those incidents?
Oh
Like, did
yeah,
you
my
notice
whole
like,
life, but I didn't know it.
no,
It took a long time to start to see it with
yeah.
different mentorships. And, like you, I've done so many years of training and apprenticeships and mentorships and workshops and therapy sessions. One interesting thing that I notice is that my major teachers, most of them have been female, in female bodies.
Yeah.
And then the ones that have been in male bodies, we had a lot of love, but also it could get combative.
Okay.
And as I look back and I really stay with your question, I can feel that's this, am I safe with you? Like, because so many of my experiences of masculine energy were not healthy expressions. So, I mean, this is not the truth. My hallucination is that what my nervous system took on to stay safe was to look for anything that might seem like toxic masculine energy and either avoid it, dominate it, control it, without realizing I was enacting some of those things myself.
Yes.
And so to really start getting familiar with and look to actively pay attention to what is healthy, strong, masculine energy.
What is that to you? The healthy, strong, masculine energy. It's like, for me, it's been like, dude, just fucking surrender to life. That's my, like, that's how I feel about the masculine side. Like, I just need to drop and surrender to something, and that made me like, I don't know what happened, but I've always been wondering, like, why is there always like 90% women coming to me, to my sessions, or for my clients, one-on-one clients, and there's like 2 dudes, and
Well,
there's
okay, so let's
20.
just start with that. That's a normal statistic in
Okay,
doing inner work for decades.
but I have a perspective on that too,
Yeah.
because people started to ask me about it, and they're like, some people are like, oh, is this a guru thing, there's only women coming? I'm like, yeah, I don't know, like, I'm not trying to get the women here, but it's more like, I think I might intimately be blocking men from coming because I have had trust issues with them. So that was my, like, another take on it. So I was like, maybe
Well,
I
what
just
does your
need to
body say when you look from your body's perspective at that very question in this moment?
It doesn't actually say anything. I would just be happy to have men, because
Because you seem really comfortable. We've never
yeah,
actually interacted in real time
no,
other than email until this. And I feel like you're very open and raw and vulnerable with me. So I don't
thank
experience
you.
you blocking me at all.
No, definitely not. It's the opposite, actually. Like we talked earlier, there's some kind of like, something has been pulling me towards you, like from the get-go when I found you on Instagram. Maybe I can share the story if you want.
Sure.
I was like doing plant medicines from the beginning, like when I started the journey, whatever you want to call it. It got more intense, so I started with plant medicines, and I didn't want to do it like too often because it felt like people are just doing it for the sake of it, for the information, and not for the actual changes in yourself, or doing the active changes. But it becomes too much with plant medicines. You need to integrate for a long time. So I was like, what should I do then? Because there's there's a tool I need. And then people started to talk about breath work, and I just saw these hyperventilating things like everywhere. A lot of Wim Hof. There's nothing against him. I'm not judging or anything, but I just felt like that's scary because my nervous system is already fucked up, and I don't need to screw it up even more. And it feels like it gets even more like triggered if I do that. So I was like, no. And then you from somewhere popped up, I think on my Instagram, and then in Unity. And from there I was like, I just saw the picture of you. I'm like, wow. And then I started to read, and I loved that you incorporated like Dharma talk, the chakra teachings, and the mantras and the breath works. I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I love, because I've always been into the chakra systems and like try to understand them, and the mantras, and like sound, how it works. And from there I was like, wow, I need to take his courses. And from that day on, I couldn't stop to get back to you. I remember when I was like downtown doing something, I'm like, wow, tonight I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go lay down in the sofa, Scott's gonna sit next to me, and I could always feel you sitting next to me. It was so beautiful. And I had like every evening I had something to look forward to, like I'm gonna do this, and it takes a couple of hours, and then I'm gonna make some food afterwards and have a walk. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. I did, the 7 days course times 3. I think, you do the 21 days, and it was so profound. Oh my God. Sometimes I didn't have to even start breathing. When you open up the space, and it was pre-recorded, it didn't matter. You just open up the space, and I did the meditations, and my body started to answer, my chakra started to answer, and bam, I found it. I found like the best tool ever, actually. So thank you. That's the like, I just wanted to share that. You don't know that you probably do this for like thousands and thousands of people. And I just wanted to like share this with you and say thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for that reflection.
You're welcome. And from there, I added on, of course, a trauma therapist, because I was like, whoa, I can't sit with this. There's things coming up. So
That's
I
right.
actually mixed it with a trauma therapist. And he was like, dude, what are you doing? Because every time you come here, you're all in, you're set to go, and you understand, but you just need to organize it in your brain, because your brain hasn't been like fully organized with all the knowings and the feelings you're releasing. So he was just doing EMDR every time I came there, and it was like boom, boom. It was like the perfect machinery. Your breath work, your teachings, and the trauma therapist.
I love
So
it.
for
I
people
love it.
listening or watching, just do it.
Well,
Do
and I
it.
want to make a point of addressing something you said for the listener, which is cross training is very important. And we have different aspects. Like, if I needed heart surgery, I'd go to a heart surgeon. I wouldn't go to an acupuncturist. I might do the acupuncture to make it easier to deal with the anesthesia, the recovery, and to help with aspects of the heart. But if I really knew I needed surgery, or if I knew I had to take a pharmaceutical for a period of time, Same thing is like, there are things that I don't work with people about necessarily that a trauma therapist is better suited to work with, given their clinical training and skills. Like, I'm talking about a mature trauma therapist who's done their inner work as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can get different perspectives. So it's valuable to be willing to see what's needed and adjust along the way, as opposed to thinking that one thing is the answer to everything. Like the breath work. For years, I started teaching that breath work through the mouth 22 years ago, over 22 years ago. And at that time, it seemed like that was really appropriate. There weren't a lot of people doing it. I was able to really create a setting, and it was only in person back then that I did it, or on the phone. But predominantly in person, was to create a setting, and it was like a whole workshop. And then there was a point at which a woman I know, I helped her to open a yoga studio in Los Angeles, Lori Ashworth. She was one of the first because she was working with me and my mentor, who was training people to lead this sort of breath work in a very holistic way. She decided to put it into the regular yoga schedule. So what once was a special workshop type experience that people would, 50, 60 people would line up and they'd pay $80 to $125, and we'd be together for 2 hours. And it was like a real special thing. Then it became something you could do every day of the week in 50 minutes. And it was included in your yoga membership. So it totally changed the dynamic. And from there, other studios started doing it.
When was this?
This would have been like maybe 18, 19 years ago.
Wow, incredible. I would love to be there to just experience you doing the breath work, and people not even, because even when you talk about breath work, people like, breath what? Breath work. How are the people talking about your so-called work?
Well, they didn't know how to talk about it. I mean, not much has changed. Some people really struggle with how to talk about, because I have so many tools that I bring and perspectives that they don't know what to call me. Just like at the beginning, you're like, what do you call yourself? Are you a coach? Are you a spiritual teacher? Are you a breathwork healer? Like, are you a healer? I'm everything and nothing. But back in those days, so just to give you a kind of a kinesthetic visual sense of it. So we have, 40 people in a room. I would open it and have everybody seated in a circle. It was very high touch. We would take hands. There were shamanic elements. I would have already burned sage and cleared the space and gridded the space. Then we're seated, we're holding hands. There's an intention for that particular session that they're oriented around. Start running the energy around the circle, which gets a lot happening. There's way more happening than just breath. And this is why I'm telling you all this. Then have each person share, what is it you're here for? What do you need to tune into that might be blocking that? And they lay down, they're doing the breath work. I have different tools like gongs, didgeridoo, voice, playing with what music is playing, having people laugh or yell or, shake or tense and release. And then there would be a closing circle. So I think the closest thing that I've observed and experienced to the way I led breathwork back in those days is when I sat in ayahuasca ceremonies or plant medicine ceremonies, where there's a whole container and it's a series of hours. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there's a flow when it goes well. And so in the closing circle, what happened for you, sometimes most of the work would happen in the closing circle. Because by that point, people are ready. And as you might recall me saying in any of the things where I'm teaching that 3-part breath through the mouth, the breath is not the work. The way I teach it, the breath is not the work. The breath is a tool. Awareness is the work. Integration is the work. And the breath is a tool. And where we were using it back then, the way some other people might use an enhancer like plant medicine, an enhancer, not as the only thing. And so when it came time for me to shift it into what I call the soma sessions now, where we're more breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, or in through the nose, out through the mouth, and really getting into the body and feeling through wherever the bound energy is, the difference is like, there's more required of the person now. Even though it's easier on the body to breathe the way we're breathing now, there's more required in terms of the willingness to find a place in the body where there's bound energy or no feeling and stay and stay and stay and be with it. Whereas with fast rhythmic breathing through the mouth, it can be very easy to just get a prana high, think that the work is done, and then go back to being an asshole in the same triggered circumstances, right? Like, so what I care about is that people can integrate whatever the teaching and tool is. They can use it consistently, and they're not treating the tool or the practice like a magic bullet. The breath is not fixing me. The mantra is not fixing me. The mantra or the breath or the way of breathing or the hatha yoga position or the whatever it is, the hands-on is a part of the thing. But I have to be present and more aware. And as awareness grows within me and it becomes embodied, then everything really can become my teacher, not just something to say. Like, but there's no skipping steps. You know, in the West, we don't have the level of preparatory teachings and practices the way they do, say, in Vajrayana Buddhism. Or Sri Vidya Tantra, where you're doing all these preliminary practices, maybe for years. Big part of which is mind training. Most people have really loosey-goosey minds, like it's all over the place. Just because people have lots of thoughts doesn't mean they actually know how to skillfully think. People have tons of thoughts, but it doesn't mean they know how to skillfully think. Having thoughts doesn't mean we know how to think.
No, and the thoughts can come from fear as well, and that doesn't help very much.
Some version of grasping, clinging, or pushing away. Simply put, most thoughts are like that until we know better. And thought is usually just noise of information coming in through my senses, triggering old stuck energies, memories from the past. So thought is often a distorted perspective on reality. It's not actually seeing reality fully as it is. So mind training, learning how to actually use thinking power skillfully, learning to go beyond ordinary thinking into awareness, learning how to regulate one's own nervous system in all moments of life, not just the easy moments, and to release that mechanism of blaming a person or a circumstance for my pain or for my joy.
Wow. And how would you explain, you talk about the awareness for those who are listening or watching, like that you become aware. Can you put words on that?
I can do my best to point at it. Awareness is actually not an object. So my voice right now is an object in your attention. Your attention can be aware of my voice. If you can see, you can be visually aware if you're watching the video of like my blue shirt and the design behind my head and the orange wall behind Tommy and the interesting, chair he's seated on. Those are all objects of awareness. Your own thoughts are objects of your awareness. Have you stopped to notice what is aware? Or are you just aware of objects, thoughts, feelings, emotions, sense data? Or can you be aware of what is aware? What is it to be aware of that which is aware? And that is where deep meditation leads. And progressively, with stability of mind and coherence in the nervous system, then as I become more aware of awareness, that is the thing where I notice, oh, awareness is not personal to me. It's everywhere.
Mm. Wow.
Everywhere. Whether other beings or animals know it or not, it's still everywhere. And that is the thing that unites all of existence, in which all of existence is even arising.
Mm.
So if you imagine when we were kids, we had Play-Doh or clay.
Yeah.
So let's just say the clay is awareness. Well, you can fashion it into any number of things, like little people and a dog and hair for the people or whatever. Do we remember that it's still clay? Or like gold, you can make gold into earrings and necklaces and bracelets. Do we remember that it's still gold no matter what shape it takes? Awareness appearing as my voice, awareness appearing as you're listening, awareness appearing as your hands touching your body, temporarily taking a form without losing any of its creative power.
Wow. And then there is someone molding or
seems like it.
Playing with the clay, right?
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Hard to say. At that point, it's like, who's playing who? What's playing what? You know?
And that's
like
the rabbit hole.
is there free will? Really?
Wow. I've been thinking about that. I'm like, if you ask me, it feels like I think there's free will, but actually maybe that's an illusion for me. I'm an observer of what's happening. And then someone can say, yeah, but you can walk away. But who is walking
what are
away then?
all the things that had to happen for walking away to be able to happen? You know, like
exactly.
Stephen Hawking, the famous physicist, said, if you wanted to bake brownies, what we call in English from scratch, which means like, you know, from scratch, how does this translate into other languages? From scratch, like the most basic ingredients. You're not using a packaged mix. You're making it like the flour and the eggs and the whatever. He said, if you truly wanted to bake it from the original, you'd have to reinvent the entire universe from the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
Because everything is related.
Yeah. And it's already
everything is
there.
Related to everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already there. Wow, I love this talk. We went deep. I love it. Thank you.
So then, but some people can get spaced out in that kind of thing. They just love getting high on a Dharma talk. They're like, I love awareness. But those people have an allergy to dealing with being embodied.
Yeah.
Right? So some people are great spiritual teachers, even maybe well-branded and world-known. And when they're home, they suck at keeping the house clean or being a good spouse or lover. Exactly. You know, like they're just like, no, it's all one, it's all awareness. It's like, please, you're avoiding form.
Exactly. You need to become the human now. Come on, you are the human being. I've been thinking about that a lot because there's a lot of wise men and women talking, but they have been like protecting themselves from the world, and it's kind of easy to be pretty wise and calm and cool and talk about the oneness. But I would be like, what if I put you in a relationship now? What would happen? Like, would you be this cool and wise and oneness dude, or would you like become human? Or you would have to become human because there's nobody.
I don't know. Some people might actually rather find a way to die, whether they create a disease, manifest a disease, or then actually deal with that, because the way the trauma is organized or the pain is organized or the memory is organized in their nervous system, being in a body is terrifying, even though it might not be conscious. How does that manifest? Well, maybe every time I start to get intimate, really connect with somebody, I suddenly have to move my bowels. Like I have to go to the bathroom. Isn't that odd? And I might say, oh, I have irritable bowel syndrome. And so, you know, it might just happen. But what if the roots of that have a deep relationship to some childhood experience of disconnection or being dominated And having to go to the bathroom was the thing that got me permission to walk away from the intense interaction and find some place to breathe. But I don't remember that. So now whenever I'm in an overly intense circumstance with another human being, something happens that my body needs to leave the room.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Or
you don't
whatever
even
that somebody's
recognize
thing
it.
is.
And you don't even recognize it. You just walk out.
Yeah.
But
maybe you had a car accident. You're new. You're 16 years old. It's your first car. You're driving 17, whatever. And you get hit by a red Ferrari with a man in an Armani suit with, Armani cologne on. And you don't remember this. It was really traumatic. And then later in life, you have an allergy to cologne, certain colognes, and you get really angry when you see red cars.
Yeah.
But you don't remember why.
Imagine how much we pick up on that without even recognizing it, how much we actually are triggered more or less every day without even being aware of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. We are a bit like AI computers. We are like learning all the time, but we also need to unlearn stuff. And we tend to forget that we need to unlearn stuff to become free, sort of, if you know what I mean.
I do.
All these patterns. It's pretty interesting. And that's your work.
What's something that you're currently unlearning, Tommy, that's important to you?
I'm unlearning control behavior, and it's not a external. It's not like I'm forcing stuff for people. It's an internal control behavior that has held me away from my purpose and from joy, from being seen, from being heard. That control behavior has said, like, Tommy, don't go into these situations because you are afraid of these things.
What kind of situation? What's a recent example?
Like on Monday, we're gonna start a talk show, a podcast on a big place right in the middle of Stockholm downtown, behind glass walls. There's 70,000 people walking by every day, and they're like, "Wow, we love you. You need to sit here with your friend and just talk." And I'm like, "This is my dream, but I'm exploding because I don't know if I'm funny. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if they will love me or they will judge me. They will probably judge me." So I'm like, all these fears I've passed by all my life because I'm afraid of that. And my control behavior has said, like, okay, let's go that way. Don't go there. But now I'm walking into that. I'm like, this is my dream and I want to live my dream. So
watch this. Is it really about your dream? Is it really in your heart when you slow way, way, way down? Because there's a lot to do in setting up that podcast. There's wires to plug in. There's things to make sure they work. Where's the power? Where's the light? There's a lot to do to get ready for this. And, you've had significant things, I'm not going to say what they are, going on in your life, that it might be hella easier to just stay home and have a coffee and relax, right? So in my case, like I have a meditation immersion coming up next Saturday online. Am I just launching this to fill my bank account?
No.
Am I just launching this so that I can get validated? Well, I have parts that those things could be important and seem like a concern. I mean, if there's no money coming in, I don't have groceries or food. So it is important, but that's not actually a big enough reason to show up.
No.
When I tune in, like I just yesterday was recording all of the December content for my monthly membership program on my site, my Empowered You community. The gift of presence is December's theme. Now, I've been jet lagged since I got back from Italy, and I was recording this at a time of day when I would feel the jet lag. I'm so connected, even though there weren't a live audience at that moment. I'm so touched and moved by what's possible for all the people who will use these practices that it gives me so much energy. But if I'm just like worried about what people think or how much registration is going to be or all this. It just contracts my energy, and then I'm not really giving the gift.
No, you're not
to the people.
fulfilled in a way. You're like more into these fears pressing you
So
down.
I'm designed in a way that I can't do things just for myself, is what I've been coming to realize. Just because I like it or I'm interested, it's not enough. Like, it has to somehow, I have to sense that it can benefit others. And then it energizes me. And it's not, you have to hear it carefully, because this is not some form of codependence. It's not codependent. Codependent would be like back to looking for validation.
Yeah.
This is like, the personal sense of Scott becoming more transparent to what matters the most. What matters the most. You know, like, you made it really present for me, all the people that have done my Unity courses, for example. If I can just imagine how they're being touched, you know, by remembering all the letters or whatever, that really brings so much energy. In fact, I'm getting ready to record for their online summit. I need to submit before December 15th a video of teachings. If I just go, what should I say, and will it look good? But if I go into those thousands of people and what could actually make a difference for them, and give them more hope, more empowerment to see life in a new way, to show up in a new way, to touch the joy in the midst of the ordinary, then, like, I don't wonder what to talk about. It all just flows.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your input. It's really precious. It made me think. It's like, I've been that way all the way until last week, when stuff was getting real. And I guess it's just, you know, all these childhood things coming up, not allowing myself to be lucky or to achieve something and all those things. But I get so fulfilled when I just, you know, when we were planning this. But you know, when you're gonna walk the walk, then you get all the triggers.
Yeah, man. All of us. And if somebody's not feeling challenged in their life, they're probably not really risking anything.
No. And I love taking risks.
Well, that can be its own other thing. That can be pathological or it can be healthy. So
exactly. That sounded very bad. I'm sorry, listeners. Not the old risk I took back in the day. Not those ones.
I mean, you know, I can see you doing parkour all over the world.
Wow. Hey, do we have some more minutes left?
Sure.
I just wanna, you catched me when you talked about joy and abundance back in the days. But what would you say, like, in general, what is holding people back from joy and the feeling of abundance?
Unworthiness.
Oh, fuck. Oh, sorry. Well, this is exactly what I'm struggling with.
Unworthiness. Some false ideas of unworthiness that we have tied to memories that we believe tell us why we are unworthy. And if you, Tommy, are an expression of the creative power of life itself, whether you call that God, Goddess, Allah, Atman, whatever it is, if you are an expression of that, how could you possibly be unworthy?
Exactly. It's
Unworthy.
like you are trying to give yourself everything at the same time you're repelling it by saying,
so
I'm
stop
not
worrying
worthy.
about yourself and be focused upon what can move through you for the highest good of all willing participants.
Word.
People talk about, oh, I need to open my heart. I want to feel more love. You want to feel more love? Love.
Yeah.
You'll immediately feel more love. Love. But if I'm sitting here going, well, nobody invited me, it was Thanksgiving yesterday in the United States. Nobody invited me to their house to join them. And in previous years, I got sad about this. Like, nobody invited me. What's wrong with me? I'll go eat worms. No, man. Like,
it's not personal.
It's not personal. Right? They're just living their lives. But that unworthiness can come up in any of us, depending on the situation. And when we kind of, it's one thing to walk on a flat surface, go for a long walk on a flat surface. It's another thing when it's got a little incline. It's another thing to hike in Bressanone, Brixen, where the hikes are like, straight up and down. This is last year for me. Wow. So when there's a bigger circumstance, like last year in Basel, Switzerland, at the Unity Find Your Flow Festival, I was a speaker, and there were over 1,300 people in my room with another 300 hoping to get in outside the door. That's probably the biggest, I think that's the biggest live audience in person that I've ever spoken in front of, I think.
Okay.
I was behind the stage. I hadn't yet been introduced, and I was noticing my breath starting to get short, and I was getting nervous, and my hands were starting to sweat a little bit. Why? Because I was thinking about myself.
Oh my God.
As soon as I started to think about, not just think about, but imagine all the people that were going to sit in the audience and all the people that they are interacting with in life and care about, that those people in the audience walk out with something, whether they know it or not, that uplifts all the people they're connected to, then I had my why. And if you watch the video on my YouTube of that talk, you'll see it. You'll see it. There's like, it just flows because I got out of the way. It wasn't about me needing to look some sort of way or not look some sort of a way. It was like,
or behave or being judged or whatever.
No, I took the time. I only had 42 minutes exactly. This big clock in front of me at my feet.
Oh my God.
And they're like, you can't go over. The timing of the whole day is such a way. I took the time because I knew it was important. After I was introduced, I took my shoes off and I placed them next to the chair. And I took some breaths. That my interaction and my offering was not just words out of my mouth. It's how I'm moving my body, how I'm situated in my body, how I'm breathing, how I'm in a living relationship with everything in the space.
Yeah.
That was the teaching. The words were just what was happening while the teaching was flowing.
Oh, wow. Thank you. This was profound. I just forgot that it's not all about me.
It's not even at all about you. No, you get to be there.
I get to be there. Exactly.
But you're going to actually probably have, it's going to go by so fast because you're going to be in a flow state with it because you're focused on being the seer, not the seen. You're focused on just breathing and loving God's people and letting the rest flow. And then later when you rewatch it, you're probably going to have a whole experience of watching, like you're learning from your own talk.
Yeah. You just become the beacon of light as you talk about.
That's funny that you just said that. This immersion that I'm giving next Saturday, this meditation immersion, is called Becoming a Beacon of Hope.
I love it. I want to do it too. I need to check this out. Wow. It feels like I want to talk to you for like 3 more hours. So I'm going to ask you while I still have the audience here. Yeah. Would you be cool talking more with me?
For sure. I love dialoguing with you. It's a joy to spend time with you, Tommy.
Thank you. I feel the same. It feels like we're so connected in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm just so grateful. And there's so much stuff going on in my life, like everyone else's. And I just feel so good sitting here talking to you and just zooming out everything. But I still remember I have a retreat. I started it today and they're waiting for me at the dinner table. 27 minutes past. But I'm not stressed out. It's about playing, finding your playfulness, finding your inner like playfulness, and it's a mind. It's a setting. It's an inner setting. It's not about playing with toys. It's about finding, being with others and starting to be intimate, or showing the intimacy, connecting. That is playfulness for me. But I'm really stoked to go back there and to tell them I've been telling everyone I'm talking to Scott Schwenk, so please do not come by and knock on the door, anything. I need to be alone with him. This is super important.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I had like, in my footnotes, I have like 10 more topics I want to talk about that are so interesting, what you talk about and about what you teach. But I think we need to take it at another point.
Let's do it.
Because this is getting big, and I love it. I really love it, and I'm so grateful for you saying yes to this. It feels like I'm like, wow, I'm worthy this, and you are handing it over to me like that. You're reminding me of my worthiness. So thank you.
Yeah, I get mine all over again through you. So it's coming back to the beginning when we talked about dialoguing, means to discover together.
Yeah.
So it's things beautiful. Get to be ever new and fresh, and be in wonder as a practice. It's not always easy, but as a practice, and it's fun to play and be in wonder with you.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow. And I started to ask you about when you started to practice this, but we got somewhere else. So I would love to pick up on that one on the next episode, because I want to hear more about your, like, where you started, because that is so fascinating too, because stuff happens when you start practicing these things, and it's profound. I want to hear all of that things too, all those mystical insights that you can't even speak about, in the beginning, and all those, the things people call weird. I want to hear those things too. And wow, there's so much I want to talk to you about. But we're just gonna leave a cliffhanger.
We'll leave a cliffhanger, and maybe we leave a second cliffhanger, which is, I feel an energy that when it's the right time and it can flow, I'd be happy to come over there and lead some event, some sort of a workshop or retreat, or something.
Yes. Wow. Please do that, and let's discuss that when the time is ready, or we are ready for the time. I don't know which way it goes, but I would love you to just tell the listeners and the viewers where they can find you.
They can go to scottschwenk.com.
Yeah.
My Instagram is the Scott Schwenk, and my YouTube, you can just put Scott Schwenk in, you'll find it. And I'm imagining in the show notes, the correct spelling can be there in those links. So there's tons of free stuff on my YouTube to get a sense of the work. And if you're called to dive in and explore something, there's lots of options, from very short things to, my longer course, the Thriving Life Blueprint, or these quarterly meditation immersions, or the one-on-one. Some of you are really ready for some one-on-one mentorship. And you don't have to commit to more than one at this moment, but it. So there's a way to lean into that. So just trust your intuition.
Wow.
And let love lead the way.
Word. Oh my God. I really hope people find you more up here in Sweden, in Scandinavia. It would be amazing to start more of a buzz, Scott Schwenk buzz up here, and get you over here. You have stuff to do here too.
I can't wait to visit. I'm very excited.
Sweet. Okay. Thank you, Scott Schwenk, for this hour.
Oh, one last thing. I have Swedish roots.
What?
Yeah. So
no way.
On my mom's side, my mother's mother, my grandmother, her maiden name is Nelson. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. Incredible. So of course you need to come back to your roots at some point, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
find
not
out what
here. It's pretty cold, but just have a visit.
Hey, Vikings can deal with that.
They were pretty different.
thick fur coat, you know.
Exactly. Well, they were another species, man.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Tommy, God bless your retreat. I think it's going to be
Thank you
amazing.
very
It
much.
already is amazing, and thank you for having me for this time. It's a joy.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Ciao.